Well, thank you very much. I am Brandon, compulsive overeater, and I was actually just pulling up my app. There it is. I am 721 days abstinent, and coming up on my 2-year abstinence, and it's day by day, and that's why I count the days. And thank you all very much for allowing me to come and share my story. I appreciate the invitation as well. And before I go any further, I will say what I've said a couple times when I share. If it sounds like I'm preaching at any point, it's because I'm preaching to myself, because I need to be reminded on a regular daily basis of what I've achieved in the past 721 days. December 26th, the day after Christmas, is my abstinent day. And since that time, I am down, I think 111, well, I think, I'm down 111 pounds during that time. And most of that was lost during the first year. And it was because the invitation to you, I didn't even realize it at first that I was really, I was embodying our invitation to you. And then once I heard it a couple more times, I was like, that's exactly what I'm doing. I am being proactive rather than reactive, and I have truly found a new way of living, and I changed all of my habits. And that's what I've been trying to do each day up until today, and I will continue to attempt to do every day thereafter. And speaking of the days, I'll rewind. I know everyone has a different story, and I'm not going to focus too much on the early part, but what I did learn through therapy and OA and other things is that something happened. And to reference the invitation to you, the reasons for our illness are unimportant, and I stopped trying to figure that out. But for whatever reason, I don't know if I was born with a compulsive eating habit or if it was trauma induced at an early age, but I can envision myself at 5 years old stealing food, sneaking food, overeating, eating in secret, all that kind of behavior. So with that said, I was a husky boy, and I was a chubby teenager and a fat adult, and I've never known anything but that up until 2 years ago. And it's a whole lot of emotional and spiritual baggage to deal with as a result of that. Even though I've had this massive physical transformation in the last 2 years, there's a whole lot that I need to continue working on, and I'm trying to do that. But when I was younger, I just my friend was food, and my way to cope was food, and I really I never knew anything other than that, because even though I could get really, really angry or upset, I would never really let anyone know. And it was like everything in my life was essentially secret, and my anger was secret. So therefore, I would go and eat in secret to express that anger. If I was sad, I wouldn't cry in front of people. I would go be sad on my own and eat about it. And food became the coping mechanism for virtually every emotion. And one of the worst things that could have happened, and I don't even know why I'm laughing about it, was I graduated from college and got a job, and then I had money, and then I lived alone. And well, this disease flourishes in isolation, and when you live alone and you have money and a vehicle to get you places, or by golly, you can even call people to bring you food. And that's really, I think, when I took it to a whole new level, and alcohol became a little bit more of a crutch in my life. It kind of became the first domino where I could do good during the week, Monday through Friday, good-ish, but then Friday would arrive and it's like, okay, I'm going to shut off the rest of the world. I'm going to lie to my friends or family. Oh, I have other plans, so that I can sit home and eat. And I had an apartment to myself. I had the money, and you name it. I would treat treat myself with food and, shut in. It wasn't necessarily every weekend, but there were a lot of weekends where I did that. And, being unmarried, no kids, single, I could do that. And I did. And oh, yes, I did. And there were many, many years of that. And what happened was, there were many attempts, you name the diet clubs, you name the, I'm going to look somebody in the eye and tell them that I'm going to go on a diet. I tried all that kind of stuff, or help me, hold me accountable. And I would lose a little weight here or there. And I became a vegetarian and a runner in college, lost a lot of weight. Well, guess what? I was still overeating then. And after college, kind of gave up on the vegetarianism, definitely gave up on the running, and all the weight came storming right back on. And there were so many times where I tried different things and it was up and down. And I think it was about 26 months ago, I realized something's got to change, or I just need to own this and I'm going to die of a heart attack or diabetes or something else, or I'm going to make sure that I die on my terms. And it just got to the point where it's like, all right, one last thing. So I knew that it was time, and I went to a therapist, and because I figured I got to start with my head, like mind, body, spirit type thing. So I figured, all right, I'm going to go to a therapist. And on the third session, I'm telling my therapist that I kind of lied to you the first time around, and there's a little bit more to it. I lie to people, and I hide in my apartment, and I eat all weekend, and I eat enough food for a family of 5 for dinner, and so on and so forth. And my therapist looks at me and says, "Have you ever heard of OA?" And I said, "Actually, I have." And I went to go to a meeting about 5 years ago, and I sat in the parking lot and I watched people walk in, and I said, "I don't need that," and I left. And I said, "I know exactly what OA is." And the directive was, during the 2-week holiday period where I wasn't seeing my therapist, I had a couple homework assignments, and one of them was to go to OA. And my therapist, and this is like the best and worst story. My therapist says to me, "Just go to an OA meeting, just show up. You don't have to say anything. You might have to say your name. You can just sit in the back of the room. You don't have to talk anything, and just listen, take it in, and then come back and we'll talk about it." I said, all right. I go to my first OA meeting. It was me and 2 other people. There was no hiding. And I was petrified, and I wanted to turn and run and walk. I wanted to run. And for whatever reason, I stuck around. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because I got a ton of attention. And the 2 people that were there, who I still keep in contact to this day, they gave me all these different tips and little insights, like, just go to meetings, and every meeting come away with one thing. And, one tip, one practice that you can start. Maybe it's don't eat in your food. Maybe it's don't eat any food out of a bag. Maybe it's don't go get anything to eat or drink through a drive-through. And like a good compulsive overeater, I was a good compulsive recoverer, and I did all of that. And I mean, every tip that they gave me, I put into action, and I was off and running on day one. And from that point forward, I really truly dove in head first. And when I said earlier that I found a new way to live, that is what I did. I essentially stopped watching TV. I stopped hanging out with a lot of friends. A couple months in, quit drinking, and I wasn't necessarily an alcoholic. I'm not necessarily an alcoholic, but I was certainly a binge drinker, and started having alcohol. Well, then I suddenly get hungry, and I suddenly have no filter on my eating. So I decided, you know what, I can't drink. I can't do that. And I started doing a little bit of everything. Every morning, meditating, journaling every day. At one point, I think I went to 4 or 5 OA meetings, and that's when they were in person, not on Zoom. So I was driving all over the place to go to meetings. I went to like a weekly men's support group meeting. therapy, and it was a little bit of everything, and it became like work during the day, recovery at night, and that's what I had to do. And my food plan was a slow developing process, but I gave up on like 5 foods right away, and those were huge. And there are circle foods that come in a square box, and that was the big one. And that was my Friday night treat, and that usually kicked off a weekend binge that it was horrible. So I gave that up and a number of other foods, and then I slowly but surely solidified my food plan. And now I eat essentially the same thing for breakfast every single day, a protein smoothie. There's 2 different things that I'll eat for lunch. Even during the pandemic, I was going to the office a number of days, and I bring my lunch, and it's one of 2 things. Dinner is a little bit more. There's 5, 6, maybe even 7 different kind of recipes that I'll have for dinner. I have a food scale. I'm actually sitting at the edge of my kitchen right now. I have a food scale over there. I weigh out most of my food. I do allow for 2 snacks each day. I weigh those out. One of them is usually like almonds, 28 grams of almonds in my little thing. So my food is locked down, and that is a big thing. And I really have not struggled too much with the food. The thing that I have struggled with, the two things I touched on earlier, are the emotional and intellectual side of it, or the emotional and spiritual, I should say. I'm really working on that actively, and I put into practice as many tools of recovery, as many steps. I'm actually currently working through the steps at this point for my first time, because that first year in program I was without a sponsor. The in-person meetings, I was not able to find a male sponsor, which was I was not instructed, but I was told by a number of people that I should have a male sponsor. And I was like, oh, all right. And even though I probably get along better with women than I do men in a lot of ways, I was like, okay. And then I couldn't find a guy to sponsor me who was abstinent and sponsoring. And as a result, I went it alone that first year, more than a year, because it wasn't until the pandemic hit and all these meetings went on Zoom that I found a men's meeting, went to that, and then lo and behold, found my sponsor at that meeting. And since then, we've been working through the steps. I'm on step 9 now. It's been a slow progress, but we're taking it slow because right away I said, I don't think I have a problem with my food right now. It's my emotions and that spiritual element that I'm very wishy-washy, and hence me seeing a therapist. I get very emotional, and my emotions usually trigger that desire to eat, and so I know that I need to keep my emotions in check. I know that the spiritual element is a massive part of this program, and it's a massive part of my recovery. I did start running, and I try to run or walk every morning because that's almost a spiritual component for me, and it sets the tone for my day. And then usually when I come back from running, I'll do my journaling, meditate, and I do all those practices first thing in the morning because I need to start my day that way. And it's almost like medicine for the soul, medicine for the mind for me. And what's kind of scary and and sad is the days that I don't run or get out for a walk, I notice that I'm very emotionally shaky. If not, I'm borderline depressed, and I've come to learn that I need to trigger those endorphins or that happiness switch in your head, and I need to start off with that. So yoga is another thing that I'll do. So if I don't get out and do running or walking, I'll do yoga, and that seems to almost trigger the happiness cue in my head. And I'm talking about this because for me, my eating was so closely aligned with my emotions. As I talked about, the sadness, I eat about it. I'm angry, I eat about it. I'm lonely, I eat about it. And So any days that I don't have that stability, thank you, 5 minutes. Any days that I don't have that stability is a dangerous day for me. And I've been very successful for 721 days, and I have not binged on any foods. I have not eaten eaten compulsively like I have in the past, and that can change tomorrow. I know that I can slip so quickly, and that's why this program and me being invited here is such a wonderful thing, because providing service, I mean, that is just one of about 84 different things that I try to incorporate into my life, and to remain abstinent, and to keep that happiness in my head, to keep that equilibrium in my emotions, and try to develop that spiritual component that's going to help me moving forward. So the one thing that a lot of my friends and family, they don't necessarily know about OA. There's only a handful of people that do. There's only a handful of people that know that I'm in therapy. I don't talk about it openly with the outside world. I'll tell you anything you want. You guys can ask me anything and I'll answer it. But for people that are not in program, they don't understand. I don't understand why you would eat that much or why you can't stop. That's weird. And it's like, and the best thing is some of my friends or guys that I work with that are overweight, they have pot belly or whatever. They're like, man, you lost a lot of weight. What'd you do? What was it? Is it just carbs? You cut out carbs? Is that what you did? And they're looking for the quick fix. Everybody's always looking for the quick fix. And I don't tiptoe around it anymore. I'm like, oh, what did I do? Man, how much time do you have? Because I basically changed my life. You want to sit down and hear it all? And they're like, what? And I'm like, that's what you have to do. You have to do a ton of different, there's no quick fix. And they're like, oh, well, anyways, looks like you lost weight. See you later. They just want to know what the pill is, what the quick fix is. And there isn't any. So anytime I talk to anyone in OA or outside of OA, it's like, I don't even know what to focus on, because what I did was I got proactive in my life and I found a new way of living. And I don't think I've sat on that couch over there in my living room more than 10 times. And if I have, it's been to read, because I know that if I lay down on the couch and I turn on the TV, that triggers my old world. And I don't know where I'm going to go from there. So my new way of living is not laying on the couch. It's not watching TV. It's not going to a bar, because if I go to a bar, I can't eat healthy food there, and I'll probably end up drinking. And so do I miss any of those things? At first I did. Now I don't. And I'm just as happy hopping on a Zoom OA meeting each night than I was laying on the couch watching Netflix or a movie or whatever. And that's just the way it has to be now, and I'm fine with that. So with that said, I know my time's coming up here, so I will wrap it up. And I can certainly, 2 minutes, I can certainly stick around for questions, because I know I kind of buzzed all over the place. But if there is anything specific, I'm more than happy to talk about that. By no means am I an expert. I'm sitting here talking to you to remind myself that I need to do all this, and it's not easy. That I can tell you. And I do still daydream every now and then about certain foods or certain past behaviors, but thankfully, because of meditation, I notice it, and then I go, hey, you're thinking about that, now get rid of it, and then I get back to reality. So I don't know if I'll ever be fully cured from that. But thank you all very much for allowing me to speak, and I really appreciate the invitation. And with that, I will pass now.